And you talked in your address tonight about a range of concerns around child poverty. I wonder if you can just give us some headlines as to what you see the areas of concern and why this is important for New Zealand to think about and address in some way.
The percentage of children in New Zealand that are still in really serious poverty is much higher than it was in the 1980s, and we've never really managed to redress that. And now with the current recession, of course, it's growing again. And we're talking about, for example, levels of preventable child illness, which are simply not being seen in many other developed countries, and which are quite shocking and which have lifelong consequences. And those levels of illness in children are very, very clearly linked to poverty as such and to the wide disparities that New Zealand now has in income and standards of living. They last with the children, what is more, for the whole of their lives. They're not just a question of sick kids. The damage done in childhood lasts right through their lives. It impedes their earning capacity and, of course, their well-being. So this is something that we're setting up a lot of misery in the future, not just for individuals, of course, but for the country as well.
And you went on to talk a bit more generally about concerns to do with what we might call the disadvantage in our society and other beneficiaries beyond just children directly.
Well, the major group of people in poverty are people with children. That is by far the major group, and in fact children themselves are the largest group in poverty in New Zealand. The percentage of children in poverty is higher than for any other group. So children are disproportionately disadvantaged, and it's such a short-sighted, stupid thing for the country to be doing in terms of its future, when we're going to need all those kids and all those workers to be doing the best they can to support, for example, our ageing population. So this is a really serious issue which successive governments have not done nearly enough to deal with.
And some New Zealanders might say, oh, gee, didn't we fix that with Working for Families and it all came right? What would be your response to that?
Well, Working for Families did do a lot of good, and it's true that it did represent redistribution, and it lifted a lot of working families out of poverty. It also did help some families move into paid work, but mainly the ones that moved into paid work were the people who already had some paid work. You can't conjure jobs that are suitable for families out of thin air. What it didn't do was help the children of beneficiaries, and now, of course, that group is growing again, and the big flaw is that it combined a form of child benefit. It's paid to the caregiver, and it depends on how many kids you've got, and it tried to combine that with a work incentive in one payment. And now when families lose their job, they also lose their $60 a week tax credit for Working for Families, so they get a double whammy.
It sounds a little bit like you advocating perhaps a return to a universal type of benefit that we had many years ago in New Zealand.
Yes, that is exactly what Child Poverty Action Group's advocating, but at the very least, to start with, we're arguing that children in equally poor families should be equally well supported, and that work incentives should be a separate issue.